Welcome to Get Even. Get Even is the podcast where Even founders Ellen and Nora, that's me, sit down with incredible women who've been there, done that in the world of business. Get Even is your backstage pass to their lived experience. You'll hear raw insights, personal stories, and the realities of success. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a peek behind the curtain of what it really takes to thrive, this podcast is for women ready to go further. It's time to get even. Today's guest is Christine Yeung. Christine is a psychologist and the founder of Weaver, Australia's first relational fitness studio. Christine is on a mission to elevate your people intelligence so that you can maintain high caliber relationships in all areas of life and work. Our conversation today goes deep on the topic of social health, on loneliness and disconnection. We'll learn why disconnection, both from yourself and others, can be a cause for many of the relationship issues that we see both at home and in work environments. And finally, Christine gives us fabulous tips for increasing our social health through small habit changes. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Christine, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Nora. And for whoever tuning in, I'm the biggest fan of Nora's work and Even as well. So it's my privilege to be here today and talking to you, Nora.
Amazing. I can't wait to see where the conversation leads us. But I want to start just really introducing you and your story.
Thank you.
So could you tell us what brought you to where you're at today and having had that rich career as a psychologist and having founded Weaver, and I know we'll talk about that more, but what's brought you to this day?
I think my career is where I'm at now is really related to my childhood, actually. And during my life journey, I intimately understand the depths of loneliness because since little, I was a very highly sensitive kid. And in order to be feeling included, I have not listening to my own voice to really empower myself. And I find it hard to explain myself to people, and I feel very lonely since childhood. And even, my parents, they are all very loving parents and I have very loving friends, but still the world seems kind of misunderstood a highly sensitive individual. So I think my path where I'm at to study psychology is because in a way, subconsciously, I want to know what's going on in me. So to put science and to help myself to understand me to start with. And I didn't know until when I really looked back in my career and who am I and why I'm doing what I do. And then I realized, okay, everything has the plan, even since little. Yeah. So I think that's how I started my career. And in terms of Weaver, is because after many years of observation, working with many professionals and leaders, I have observed in most cases the root cause of many team conflict, interpersonal conflict, disengagement, reduced productivity is actually stems from a form of disconnection. Mm-hmm. So when I say disconnection, is disconnection within when work doesn't seem to make sense anymore, or disconnection from the people around you. You don't know who to trust at work, and disconnection with organizational purposes and values. So I see a lot of disconnection happening. And because of my lived experience in loneliness, everything makes sense. Professionally and lived experience, I feel if there is one thing for the rest of my life I want to contribute my expertise to, it would be loneliness and solving that disconnection in our humanity. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Wow. It's so important. And it's Yeah, I can really resonate with what you're saying, but I think it's amazing that you are dedicating your career to this issue, which I think for many years was probably one that we didn't talk about a lot. Um, so I do want to actually ask you more about disconnection and loneliness as topics.
Hmm.
So can you tell me what loneliness actually is, what disconnection actually is, or what are some of the symptoms, I guess? I mean, many of us would be able to recognize feeling a sense of loneliness, but what, from a psychologist perspective, what is loneliness and what is disconnection?
So there are three layers to when it comes to disconnection. So when I say three layers, meaning disconnection essentially is the experience of losing connection. The first layer is within yourself, meaning everything related to disconnected with your values, your passion, essentially is about your identity. And the second layer is with your interpersonal relationship, meaning disconnection with your partners, with your colleagues, with someone that you care about, with another person. The third layer is disconnection with your wider community, meaning is your work, your work culture, belonging. For example, what is it like to feel like an Australian? That kind of wider context of the community. So a disclaimer is that disconnection is actually very normal. And the feeling of loneliness often come with disconnection. And that feeling of loneliness is also absolutely normal. Nothing pathological around it. It's only when we are not aware that, in this moment, I'm a bit disconnected with my partner because I've been too busy. Or at this moment, I feel I'm a bit bored in my work and I don't know why. And I just go on emotions, just like just turning up to work, but feeling really bored and just dragging along the day. So if you start feeling that disconnection, it's actually normal. It's only when that disconnection and that sense of loneliness become chronic, then that's when we really need to really change something about it, because that chronic loneliness is what we often measure in public health, that because is about impacting our mental health and health. That's when it does come into that negative impact. It's when
So,
that loneliness become chronic.
okay, so you're saying it's a perfectly normal experience and it's not pathological, but it becomes chronic when it impacts your emotional or your psychological health. Is that the distinction?
Yeah, so it's when that become chronic loneliness, when you feel that for very long time, it will start creeps in to impact it on your health and mental health.
I'm just wondering then how, and I really, understand the hypothesis that a lot of the issues we see in organizational contexts,
Mm,
that the root of them is disconnection.
mm.
But what are you seeing? How does that play itself out in action? What are you seeing in organizations? How do you see disconnection coming to life? And then also, um, what are some of the ways that we could actually solve for it in organizations?
Yeah, so at work, then we talk about three layers, right? At work, the first layer is feeling that, so what I call it accidental loneliness, which is disconnecting with yourself. So how does that manifest at work is when you say something or when you speak, your colleagues actually misunderstand who you are, that you feel like you have to continuously justifying who you are to your teams and to your people and to your managers, to your leaders, for example. And that sense of, I want them to see who I am. That's disconnection is happening. That is a very subtle feeling of existential loneliness, because all of us are born to want to be seen and heard. Okay. And the second part is what I often call it emotional loneliness, is when you're disconnected emotionally with the people that you work with. It could manifest in a way that is, you feel really stressed about certain type of work. You feel very not confident. Let's say if you are assigned to do this big presentation, but you're not confident, but you feel like you can't tell anybody. You don't know who to trust to show vulnerability. And when you're facing challenge, who do you ask for help? So that is, you feel very emotional lonely because you know that you are only on your own.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're disconnected with the people around you. Or people disconnected with you. So it's a interaction dynamic process. It's not that you have done anything wrong that caused that disconnection. It is there are many factors come in place. And the third is what I call it social loneliness, is, connected with the wider like-minded tribe or group. So it's about, that you feel you don't have access to a group of like-minded people that share similar interests, career, vision, or purpose. That you feel like, oh, I want to become a part of something bigger than me. I wanted to work with my peers and contribute to something that is mission driven. I wanted to know my organizational purpose. I wanted to know what I do now has a big impact to a group, to my community. That if you don't have that, maybe that's the social loneliness that will happen for you. Mm.
I think what you're raising there is so important, because you are normalizing something that I think can often be hard to explain. And I think part of the experience of loneliness is that the experience itself is isolating, but also the fact that maybe you don't feel you can share it makes it even worse. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important what you're sharing there.
Yeah, I think particularly after COVID, there is this in I can only talk about Australian workplaces because that's the only experience I have. I think during COVID, probably it's a global phenomenon that we rethink a lot about meaning of life. And work is part of life. So a lot of people start thinking about, what does work really mean to me? I think that's when we talk about meaningful work, purposeful work, and loneliness and disconnection, or flip it around, belonging and connection is all about meaning. So it's how do we create meaning in our own life, and when we work, how does work create meaning for me? And it's not blaming organization. It's hard. It's hard work for organization to take care of the people and to focusing on performance as well as to create meaning, right? It's a lot to ask for leaders as well, that I absolutely acknowledged. So I think it's that double-edged sword. Is individuals start thinking through it and start more people leaving work because that doesn't create meaning. And the younger generation is like, if you are not telling me, what's the biggest purpose by working with you, I'm going to leave. I'm going to start my own startup and create more meaning in my life. And organization is catching up with, what does that really mean? So
Yeah.
I see the tension is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can see that too. But I want to get really practical on the topic of connection and belonging. And I want to think about some of the women who are uneven, for whom, so if meaning is at the kind of the root cause of what would help them to live more connected, um, more fulfilled lives, what can you share as some practical tips around how do we build intentional social health practice? How do we build intentional practices of connection into a working routine? How can you build that into your working life, if you're not going to be leaving that life to start your new startup, for example? Yeah.
I think it has to be practically. There are times and space. There are research looking into this for play, for teams to play. I'm not talking about social bonding, going to pub for beer, which is also not bad idea, but we need to do more than that. So we are talking about play, meaning can you make a brainstorming session playful? And it's a mindset. It's not about, what fancy tools do you use. It's really about a culture of playfulness. I think that's really critical, that, play together. Sometimes non-work related play is critical as well. Like non-work related play, meaning, it could be like a lunchtime walking session, talk about your, so I call it this personal ritual at work, that you can have a 10 minutes walk and actually talk about anything that you want in life. For example, a life goal that you want to achieve, and talk to a colleagues. And then during the 10 minutes, you take turns, 5 minutes your turn and 5 minutes the other person. Then is helping each other to talk about life in general. And Brene Brown talk about it. If at work that we cannot talk about topics that are deeper, we will never create a sense of connection. Deeper meaning you talk about your fear, your dream, your aspiration. That's only 3 examples. Fear is it doesn't necessarily go back, talk about your childhood fear. It could talk about, I'm fearful because I'm going to, plan to have a second child, but my career is, at this stage, I'm actually really worried about how do I proceed with my career. That is vulnerability that you need to share with someone that you trust, and that builds deeper connection with your colleagues. So yeah, and what I'm saying is that highly depend on your organization culture as well.
You just brought me all the way into, this is incredible, into vulnerability. For some reason, I hadn't really thought about the importance of that. But of course, like you said, it underpins connection. Can you just expand on what you started there, the point around it depends on your organization? So because we all know that, I love the tips that you share, things like going for a walk with somebody, actually sharing things that maybe you're scared of, maybe your hopes, your aspirations. But what's the sort of, what did you mean by saying it depends on your organization?
Very good question. It's about the culture your organization have created, meaning a sense of psychological safety that has to be there in your team and in the culture, so you are able to do this. So I'm talking about different level of interventions, if you like. If your work is designed in a way that you have no time whatsoever for deeper connection, then what I just suggest wouldn't work. So I'm talking about organizational level intervention is to look at psychosocial health and safety. So that's something that is very prominent now in Australia, that, because it's in regulation, that all organizations need to really think about strategy to measure and prevent the risk of burning out and all these psychosocial hazards. So is that part has to be there so that the culture is supportive of what I just said and suggest, like play, like having deeper connection with your colleagues, and have time and space to cultivate that. That has to really support and empowered by leadership teams in organizations. Yeah.
And what about things that you can do as an individual outside of work in order to increase your social health and increase the level of connection that you experience with others?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm actually developing some rituals and games for Weaver, so I can share one or two here. I think because we are all very busy individuals with life, so what I'm sharing here, the one or two things can be very easy to do. So the first one is more for friendship or intimate partnership. So is about, it's a ritual called Nice to See You Again. So is pretty much is bring the present and focus back to every day when your partner come back to home.
Mm-hmm.
How you greet your partner. That is something that we are very busy with life. We forget to do it and do it meaningfully.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the chaos that happens when one of us comes home with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Keep going. I want to hear this.
put the food on the fridge, or let's prepare dinner. It's just we're just focusing on very much getting things done. But to greet your partner every day as if it's new. Like, I haven't seen you all day. I'm excited to see you. I want to see you. Just like literally just an eye contact with kindness, and that we forget sometimes, right? So this is something I think I would suggest everyone, and it's easy to do. It is also a awareness and a mindset, right? And the other thing is, this is what I call a 4-season ritual. That could be friendship. That could be for intimate partnership as well. 4-season ritual. We have 4 seasons from spring to winter. So every season actually signified a different, it is a cycle, isn't it? Just like relationship. So pretty much this will take 50 minutes for every season. 15. Lock it in your calendar with your friend or your one family members, or actually the whole family. You can do it with. Spring represent a sense of newness, beginning. So and you sit together for that 50 minutes to actually talk about what is it in the upcoming year or season that we wanted to begin. Any habits that we want to begin. So you talk about beginning. And summer is things that you want to celebrate. It's exciting. It's all, doing and, a lot of activities. So it's about, what is some of the wins that we should celebrate. So you talk about meaningful conversation. Autumn is when we slow down and we wanted to do a lot of, preparing for hibernation, which is winter. So autumn is about what is it that we need to clean out? What is it that we actually need to let go of? in our relationship that doesn't serve us anymore? Is there any habits or any even negative thinking that we need to really, focusing on and work on and let that go? Winter could be things that what can we do to actually maintain a very healthy boundary between us for resting versus the world that expecting us to do. Does that make sense what I said?
Yeah.
So it's the 4 seasons, so you sit down and different themes. And you can download all these on the website. So these are the 2 rituals that I would recommend. It's quite easy, 15 minutes for every season.
Very nice. I want to move into a slightly different area, but I think it's very much connected to the topic of belonging and connection, which is the advocacy role that you play when it comes to supporting women who are migrants. And I know that you're a fierce advocate for cultural equity. And so I want to ask you about some of the unique challenges that you have seen that are faced by migrant women when they're navigating careers.
That's like $1 million question, and there's like so many things I want to share. So I can only speak as a Southeast Asian woman that where I come from. So is based on what I've seen and also my own lived experience. One of the challenge is to work with the misperception of what we can offer, meaning our competency. So Adam Grant and actually Time magazine just yesterday have released an article called "Why Exceptional Leaders is So Rare."
Wow,
So talked
I've seen it.
Yeah, I'll send it through to you, and is talked about we have a culture in Australia and globally that we reward confidence, not competencies. So the perception around Southeast Asian women that we are soft or we look a bit younger, our voice is a bit softer, is not loud, we may not seen as confident. So if we are awarding confidence, then we may not be ever recognized. So that's what I have worked with, is this microaggression around an unconscious bias in Australian workplace to be recognized, that we also have something very valuable to contribute, and also as leader and advocates, we have a voice. So that's something that is most challenging that I have seen.
Yeah. Have you had personal experiences that have shaped your career where you have actually experienced these microaggressions or significant career moments where being a migrant woman actually really stood out to you as something that made a difference?
Yeah, I think there are many moments, unfortunately. But there is one that is very vivid for me. I often work with people, particularly senior leaders, that doesn't look like me and sound like me. So in this particular meeting, I walked into this meeting that, there are a lot of executives in the room, and they don't look like me and sound like me at all. So for the first 20 minutes, no one looked at me for once. No eye contact. Not until one of the leaders in the group say, "Oh, the person that we really need to hear from is Christine, because she has the subject matter expertise, that everyone look at me. Yeah. So that is very common. I've been asked to take notes before when I walk into a group, to a meeting, because I'm an Asian woman, or maybe in women in general, I have chat with so many women that they have the similar experience around like being asked to take notes when you are in very senior meetings. But for me, that specific experience that no one looked at me, I just remember how lonely that was. And you still need to be professional and still need to, be diplomatic, and, that is tough.
Yeah. And 20 minutes in that scenario would have felt like a really long time as well, because you would have been very conscious of it.
Yeah, very conscious of it. So I have developed a strategy, which now I've coached many migrant women to do, is to develop your non-verbal language to show that you are not afraid of that biases and the subtle energy that you are not being seen. And because you cannot shrink, your non-verbal language cannot shrink, you actually need to actually work with your non-verbal language so that to show people actually, hey, I'm here.
So what advice do you give them other than, so don't shrink, use your nonverbal language? What else?
I think to stay, I think sometimes it's a sense of what is your energy in the room, from the way you give eye contact, from the way that you sit, and even your feet, whether it's touching the floor, fully grounded yourself, and where you put your hands. Those are the very things that it will exert power. Yeah, it is consciously having that open body language, and this is a very long-winded answers to your question. You gotta in yourself be very comfortable in your own skin, that to the point where you are exuding that inner power without, you are not waiting for anyone permission to do that. Yeah.
Nice. And so body language aside, what other career advice do you find yourself giving to other women who are perhaps earlier on in their career?
I'd say you have knowing from day one you have something unique to offer. Okay, don't wait until you are better or more senior before you go out and meet people. That's something I didn't do. I'm speaking of personal experience that I regret I didn't build my network strategically since day one. So I wait until that imposter syndrome. Oh, I need to be more senior to mingle with more senior people. I need to be, know my stuff better before I contact these senior leaders. So just remember, of course, you need to build relationships strategically and with a level of maturity, but build your network since day one. Whether those are very supportive work friends, professional friends that will really supportive of your wins, or mentors or sponsors, do it from day one. Don't wait. But so with that, have a mindset of, even if you are young, you have something to offer. If you are new in the industry, you have something to offer. Your opinions, your values is there since day one. So that's what I wanted to share with the women who just started their career or early in their career.
So, Christine, it just made me think about the fact that many women that I speak with invest a lot of their time, a lot of their energy into managing their jobs, but not their careers or their networks. So I really resonate with just the last thing that you said about the importance of, you don't have to wait until you get to a certain point in your career in order to be able to invest in your network.
Absolutely. I think that's really critical because we tend to have imposter syndrome and really thinking let's wait. But I think, when you first start your career, it's actually the best time to get to know people that are more senior. You approach them with specific mindset around, I wanted to be inspired and learn from. I want to hear your story and what's your lesson learned. I think go specifically to them with a mindset that I'm learning, I'm expanding my horizon, and don't wait.
Yeah, I agree. And so thinking about what we're building here at Even, which is it's a community where women can support each other. In your mind, why is it important for women to have access to a supportive community like Even?
Because I strongly believe that when women get together, it's very powerful. And I think Even is a platform, if not, it's a community that not only, that we can learn from each other, but we are able to learn from people who have been through the journey. So it's not just knowledge, it's wisdom. I think that's really critical. And since ancient time, what kind of group of women come together is making things more powerful, more organized, more nurtured. And I think I think Even is restoring that ancient wisdom. I think that's really critical for our society.
Wow, what a beautiful word to bring into the mix and to draw the distinction between wisdom and knowledge. Thank you. That's incredible.
Yeah, so much wisdom in women, I think, and it's transferable competency as well. If you can run a family, of course you can run a team.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Those are the wisdom that we don't talk enough in workplace. Transferable life skill.
Yeah.
I think we should talk more about that.
Oh, you're so right. Well, thank you so much for letting us into your wisdom. I feel like I learned a lot about loneliness, a lot about connection and disconnection, a lot about what are some of the practices and I love the rituals that you've suggested that you're creating as part of Weaver. I am definitely going to take some of those into my life with my kids, with my husband, with my friends, and just want to thank you so much, Christine, for sharing those with us. I'm Dr. Nora Koslowski, co-founder of Even, where our mission is to accelerate women's economic potential. Check out even-careers.com to learn how we support women and business to get even.